So after a year of wholesaling with your initial $3,000 investment, how did you end your first year wholesaling real estate?
Yeah, so I do have a partner. So we ended up our business made $200,000.
You're listening to the Real FI Podcast, where we discuss time-tested tricks, techniques, and strategies for pursuing financial independence today, so that we can enjoy a better tomorrow. Financial independence isn't about getting rich quick. It's about cultivating a foundation to grow financially, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Let's figure out how to kick the 9 to 5. Here are your hosts, Patrick and James.
How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to the Real FI Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McGrath, with my co-host, James Rippion. How's it going today, James?
Going good, Patrick. Can't complain. Excited to get into it.
So we've got a great guest today. We don't edit, so bloopers in. We got a great guest today, Jessica Geisler. She is a wholesaler, and I believe that she is going to bring a ton of great value to the podcast today. So, Jessica, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
We're super excited. We are super excited. All right, James, you know the deal. Let's kick it off.
All right, Jessica. So happy to have you on the podcast. I know you're going to give a lot of value to our listeners. We're going to really crack this open and get some value from you. So before we get into the things you're doing now and all the exciting things you're doing in real estate, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, the things that you were doing before you made this big shift into doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of background on me is I was in corporate America for 13 years. I went to college, got a master's degree, thought that I would just kind of climb my way up through the corporate ladder. And pretty much from the get-go realized that it was just not for me. Back in 2015, my husband and I had just gotten married. We had a small child, and I started researching how to buy, make sure our first house was a good investment property. And that actually led me to the world of BiggerPockets, which completely changed the course of my life. I was obsessed. I listened to every podcast, read every book that they had, and I basically just immersed myself into the world of real estate investing. It just I didn't even know that a normal person could own rental property. You always think it's millionaires and things like that. So it really just planted that seed for me, and it kind of gave me this lighthouse to escaping the rat race. And so 2015, we bought our first house with the intention of it becoming a rental property. It was a fixer-upper and this and that. And so we bought our first house. And even in 2015, the market was still a seller's market. The whole 1% rule and all these things that I was learning on BiggerPockets, it really wasn't applicable in where I lived and stuff like that. So I was kind of frustrated. And so we ended up staying in that house for a few years. I was still just kind of working my 9 to 5. My husband's working in his job. And so had another kid. And so we were kind of on hold for a few years, but I kept, the whole, just educating myself and just learning as much as I could in that time frame. 2018, so 3 years later, we ended up buying 2 more properties. We rented out our first one that we bought, which was always the plan. We found another rental, and then we ended up moving into another primary that we completely gutted. So we had 3 properties at that time, and I was still super miserable in the corporate world, but I just kept kind of climbing the ladder, making more money. And it was kind of one of those things where I started making 6 figures, and in my mind, maybe I should just stay here and just try to make money and try to do real estate on the side. And I was still just miserable the whole time. But anyway, so at that point we had 3 houses. go to 2020. I had March 2020. I had another new job that I had just started the year before. The most money I was ever making, just kind of thinking, okay, I'll just have to stick this out, whatever. But I ended up getting laid off March of 2020 with COVID. And luckily, we had just did a cash out refinance on our primary that we bought it as a burr, but we were going to live in it. So we had just did the cash out refinance with my W-2 and my husband's income right before I got laid off. So we had like 50,000 bucks like in the bank. And so I was like, all right, I'm never going back to corporate America. I'm done. I don't care if I starve. Well, I mean, luckily I'm married, so my husband was working too. It wasn't like, so I was in a good situation. But 2020, my kids were home from school. Nobody was going to school. So I just kind of took that time to just keep, at that time, I really didn't know what I was going to do in real estate. I hadn't zeroed in on wholesaling yet. I just knew that we wanted rental property. Are we going to do flips? What are we going to do? And so I was 2020 was like self-reflection, finding myself, trying to figure out, I knew that I wanted to work for myself. So I ended up joining a coaching program towards the end of 2020 and, just wanted to be around people that are doing what I'm doing and kind of I think having a mentor is always really good. And so joined that. And then January of 2021, so last year, I had already been learning how to find my own deals. And so I was like, you know what? A really, really awesome source of active income is wholesaling. Like, why don't I just sell the deals that I'm already finding? I was already cold calling. I was already door knocking. Why don't I just sell those? And then I can still keep the best deals for myself. So January is when I figured out, okay, I'm going to do wholesaling. And so I did that all last year, still doing it. And that's where I'm at.
All right, there is a lot to unwrap there. She gave us the synopsis in like 3 minutes.
A long synopsis, but
I love it. I'm pretty sure James wants to rewind a little bit. So James, go for it and let's dive into all that because that was a lot.
So you seem, I don't know where to pick it up from. You did a lot of great deals. I kind of want to focus on the wholesaling aspect of it.
Yeah.
But you seem to have, done a whole bunch of small rental deals and some refinances. So your experiences are there. But let's talk about the wholesaling. You came into it as an investor and a wholesaler at a crazy time. 2020, COVID's hitting. At first, prices are going down. People, are selling everything because they don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
2021, 2022 comes around. Prices are skyrocketing. Things are, flying off the shelf. I have a couple relationships with wholesalers locally. They don't seem to be, sending me the same deals that they did pre-COVID. Why don't you talk to us just generally about the market that you're experiencing and like coming into it at the time that you did?
Yeah. So I don't think that I wasn't really on the wave of the people getting out of their houses in 2020. I don't know if I just was like not having the connections or just not like able to reach those people. Like I was still figuring it out. So I have never had the experience of like people needing to sell their house. Like I can't wait for that day. Not like I don't want anyone to like struggle or anything like that. But as a wholesaler, I have really only found it hard to find deals. Maybe I don't have anything to compare it to. I don't know. So in 2020, it took me 6 months. I full-time started wholesaling in January, full-time meaning, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. when my kids are in school. And it took me until July to make $1. And we made 10 grand, but it took me 6 months of paying for leads, paying for skip tracing, driving around, sending mail before I made any money. And people do it faster, people take longer. That's how long it took me. And then after that, I got a partner and we started getting deals. So for me, it's always been really hard to find deals. So it's always been hard. It's like, so I don't know.
Let's talk about that first investment that you made. You're saying you're going to have to wait 6 months, in your case specifically, before you saw that return. I think a lot of people, when they look at wholesaling, they at first think it's going to be this easy way to make quick money. But as anything goes in real estate, it takes time. You got to develop leads, you got to develop relationships. You're going to send mailers out and get, no feedback, and then you're going to send some batches and you're going to get a lot of answers and responses. Talk about, you deciding to make that initial investment and kind of getting over the mental roadblock of maybe not seeing an immediate return. Yeah,
absolutely. So I went into this saying, I'm going to build a business for myself. I knew that I wanted to build a wholesaling business. I want to build a $2-3 million a year wholesale business. So for me, this was never going to be just a one-off deal here and there. You can certainly do that, but I went into it saying that this is going to be a business. With that in mind, I also said to build a business, it takes an initial investment. So I took, I don't know, $2,000 to $3,000 and just put it in my own little bank account and said, this is for me to build my business. Something about that mental switch of allocating those funds for your business makes it a little bit easier than trying to take out of like your family, budget for, $500 for your leads and skip tracing, and then another $200 for a dialer. It just felt to me like, okay, if I'm just going to earmark this for initial investment for my business, then it works. So I went into it, and I actually tell everyone that it takes money to start. I mean, there are a lot of people that say, if you don't have any money, try wholesaling, and you can drive around and look for a house, but it is going to take, in this market, you got to be so freaking lucky. But so I tell everybody, just go deliver pizza, do whatever you need to do to put away $2,000 to $3,000 and just allocate that and say, I'm going to spend $500 a month on this business and I'll get a deal. And my first deal was 10 grand. So it 3 times paid for my initial investment. And then since then, we've just continued to make money. So that's the mindset that I would advise people go into it as.
I think that's huge. I mean, I love the fact that you said you allocated the certain amount of funds to start the business. You dedicated the time to do that, and it paid off. It took 5-6 months, but once you got that first one, you were like, okay, this works. I can do this. So that's huge. I love that. I would really like to kind of get into, what were you doing? Were you sending out mailers? Were you writing handwritten letters? Were you doing text messages? Were you making phone calls? Maybe all of it. But there's so many different ways people do wholesaling. I know for me, I've sent out postcards and I've gotten, 2 deals for postcards, but I haven't took the time to start actually calling or doing text messages or some of these other ways to do it. So I'd really love to see, how are you doing it now after, a year and a half?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the answer is yes, all of the above. So this is my step-by-step process. I'll just break it down. I get on one of the main sources of leads. Okay. That's out there. Pull a list. There are tons of, get on YouTube and just see what other people are doing. There's a variety: vacant, absentee owner, tax liens, probate. Okay. Just filter down a list. I like to make sure they've owned the house for 15 to 20 years. I like to make sure that the house is, in my area, like 1980 and older. These are things that are going to up your chances that the house needs work. I don't want someone that just moved in a year ago. I don't want a house that was built in 2015 because it's not going to need any work. And in this market, they can put a for sale sign out front, and that, I'm not going to be the right fit for them. So I pull a list of 500 to 1,000 leads, skip trace it. So get all of their phone numbers. And then I start calling the list. I recommend that people use a dialer. It is going to change the game. If you can, pay, it's like $200 a month, I think, on some of them, but it'll take you from calling 40 leads a day to like 300. It's a game
If you
changer.
wouldn't mind, that's all fantastic, but I'd really like to know, what is your batch skip tracing, and what is the dialer that you're using?
Oh, it's batch. We use batch leads, we use batch skip, and we use batch dialer. My promo code is INVEST. So I think that gives people like half off the first month or something like that to try it out. But yeah, it's a game changer. And batch leads even has like a triple line dialer. So it just gets you faster through like voicemails and things like that. So
we're gonna include Jessica's promo code in the show notes for anyone who wants to click on that and go get a good deal.
Thank you. So pull your list, skip trace to get the contact information, and then upload it into a dialer. Okay. You can do this on your lunch break. There are people that do it from 6 to 7 at night, things like that. Start calling, just start calling. I cannot emphasize how many people ask me, how do I find a buyer? What happens if I have to cancel? I'm like, just start talking to people, get a contract first, then worry about the rest of it. But people are like, do I need an LLC? Do I need this? And I'm just like, refocus, get your list, and start calling. Okay.
I love that so much. Because people try to put the cart before the horse all the time. You're like, hey, just get a deal and then figure it out. Someone's going to buy it.
Yes.
You'll figure that part out first. Like, don't think about how you're going to pay taxes on a deal that you don't even have, and a seller you haven't even started talking to yet.
Exactly. 1,000%. So,
all right.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, all right. So we've got the list. We've skip traced. We started making phone calls. Now someone answers the phone. Like, oh crap. What do I do now?
So this is what I would definitely advise. I don't have a script. Okay, so I'm in a coaching program. So they did provide a script for me that I paid for. Okay. So I would advise, there are scripts online. Get ideas. I obviously can't share a script from another like guru out there, but there are scripts online. My recommendation would be to find a script, write your own script, study, certain questions to ask and things like that, and get it, like memorize something, get it to, and practice with your spouse, practice with a friend. And because you have to sound confident, like you have to sound, this was the hardest thing for me starting out, before you ever do your first deal. You really have like doubt, like, am I even going to be able to sell the deal? Like you just have all this hesitation, and people can smell that from a mile away. So practice, and you have to really work on your mindset. Mindset is like a whole other conversation, but you have to be coming into that conversation with every seller like you are going to sell that deal for them. It's a done deal. You're going to help them out, and they're looking for somebody that is going to help them. Okay. So you can't be hesitant. You can't be like doubting yourself and stuff like that. So get a script, practice it, and just trick yourself into thinking that you're already like who you want to be, if that makes sense. Like just
1,000%.
Yeah, like that's where the whole fake it till you make it comes from. Obviously you want to be genuine, authentic with people. Don't lie, just say you're a local investor, things like, which is true, things like that. And so get a script, and, I know there's a whole nother conversation around closing and like talking to sellers, but I would just recommend that people get something organized so that you're prepared when you're talking to people.
Right. And I think it's important to say that it's okay to fail your first couple calls and not maybe live up to the expectation that you had originally set for yourself, because learning these new skills is not a comfortable experience. I would equate it to public speaking. Like most people are terrified of that. So, when you're getting into this business and starting these experiences, like you're going to face some things that are uncomfortable emotionally, and you're going to have some self-doubt, of course. But like you're saying, you just got to push through it and make those first calls. And then once you have those embarrassing experiences, you're going to not hopefully repeat those same mistakes over and over. And that's learning, that's developing, and that's how you're going to improve upon yourself and your skills.
Yeah, exactly.
That's huge. All right. So let's say we have talked to the seller, we've got an agreement, we've got a contract. So, and it's a good deal, but you're not going to keep it. You're gonna go and assign it to somebody else. So everybody always wants to know, where do I find my buyers at?
Yeah.
Like where do I find the people that want to flip this house or use it as a rental? Walk us through that.
Yeah. So a huge place, like our main place that we use is Facebook, local Facebook investor groups. Okay. This is what I tell everybody. You should be in my area, in the Dallas area. There's probably 6 or 7 at least of different real estate investor groups that are just in the Dallas area. There's multiple all over the state. You should be in those groups. Okay. That's the first thing. Get in there, and other people are posting deals. Okay. And they're saying, drop your email if you're interested. Go in there and scoop up every single email you can find. Start an Excel sheet and just start building a list. Okay. That's the first thing. Second thing is that's where you're going to post your deal when you get a deal. So you got to get the pictures and you got to have the numbers, and do not put up BS numbers, but put up realistic numbers. And that's where you're going to post your deal. Okay. So you're going to get interest that way as well. The third thing, and this is what I did on my very first deal, because, being able to sell the deal was a kind of a mental roadblock for me. I felt like I was almost subconsciously like blocking myself from getting a deal, because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it if I do get a deal. So I personally reached out to a couple of local wholesalers and flippers that were all over the Facebook groups. You knew they had a ton of experience. They were even mods in the Facebook groups. And I just said, hey, when I find a deal, will you help me sell it? And we can split the fee. And they were like, of course. So I ended up partnering on my first deal because my partner like verified the comps for me. He, when you're new, you just don't know, like, okay, is this a deal? I think it's a good deal. He helped me verify, hey, if we get it for this, we're going to sell it for this. So I split the fee with him, and we've actually been working together ever since. But there's nothing wrong with partnering on your first few deals with experienced wholesalers. Now, make sure that you're getting it under contract. Okay. You got to trust the person, but also, CYA, right? So don't just be like, oh my God, this is the house, because wholesalers have a bad reputation for a reason. There are a lot of shady people, and especially in this market, it's very hard to find deals. So just be careful. But I would definitely recommend partnering, JVing with somebody on your first couple deals, if that's just going to make you feel. Because I know once I talked to a couple, I was like, oh, I'm getting a deal. Done. I'm getting a deal, and I did.
I think I want to highlight something that I'm hearing a consistent theme of, and it's the abundance mentality and not the scarcity mentality. 50% of a good deal is better than 100% of no deal. And if you have no idea what you're doing, there's no shame in going to seek help, guidance, counsel from somebody who knows what they're doing and getting that deal done. It's going to put you way ahead of the curve when it comes to doing these transactions. And this kind of relates back to the investment part of it too. Investing $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 into your business.
Yeah.
You have to have that abundance mentality, that expectation that you're going to succeed, you're going to make these calls, you're going to partner with people, build these relationships, and just not think that this last deal is going to be the final deal you ever see. So I think there's a lot of value to be found there. Let's talk about these buyers a little bit. What is your ideal buyer as an investor, and what is a buyer that you try to stay away from? Like, do you have people that you interact with that you're like, I'm not going to sell this deal to you? Do you have certain buyers that you love working with? Like, describe that ideal buyer for us.
Yeah, it is very interesting being on the wholesaler side of it, because back in the day when I was trying to find rental properties and stuff, we all have worked with wholesalers and stuff, and you're like, God, why can't I get a deal? Why won't they send me like an awesome deal? And me, who had never bought a deal before. Okay. Okay. As a wholesaler, all we want is somebody who is going to close the freaking deal. Okay. I don't care, so experience helps. The ideal cash buyer is somebody that is experienced, that I know is going to close the deal, that is not afraid of a project, because the most of the deals these days literally can't be listed on the market because they're in such bad shape. So it has to be someone that can make the numbers work, and has a crew and stuff like that. So for us, we will take a little bit less money for someone that we know is going to close than, Sally, who has never bought a rental property. She was very nervous. She because we've had 2 times where we got the earnest money because they didn't end up closing, and we don't want the earnest money. We want to sell the deal because the seller is waiting to close. We want to close the deal. So I think the most important thing as a wholesaler is we have to have the confidence that you're going to buy the deal.
That's huge. And for everyone out there that listened to an episode from a week or 2 ago, but by the time this comes out like a month ago, we talked about this with wholesalers, and James and I both agreed, and I'm hoping that you would confirm, you probably have 1 or 2 people that every deal that you're not going to buy goes to first, and then probably 2 or 3 more people, and then it goes out to the email list.
Right.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, we definitely have people that we will go to first. So, and it's like the chicken and the egg. I've been the new investor who needs to reach out to people. Oh, can I pick your brain and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm so humiliated for myself, but it's hard when you're trying to get in the game and you can't get a deal, and wholesalers are sending you crap and, whatever else. So, you have to, but also at the same time, even when I was a newer investor, I would buy a deal without getting the inspection, without getting because you have to get the experience. So my advice, if you're new, you can't be scared of making a mistake, losing money, obviously mitigate your risk. But if you're going into with a wholesaler or to look at a property as a buyer and you're timid, you're nervous, you don't know, we're not going to sell that deal to you because you need more experience, and I don't want you backing out at the last second.
I totally agree. And I think that's awesome. So for everyone out there that's thought about wholesaling, rewind all that, listen to it 5 times, because she just gave you everything you need to start a wholesaling business. And for me, I am going to go and follow that lead and go to batch leads, because I've been putting it off for a while. And now that I've spoken with you, I'm so happy. So we know how to wholesale. You've been doing it for a little over a year now. So after a year of wholesaling with your initial $3,000 investment, how did you end your first year wholesaling real estate?
Yeah, so I do have a partner. So we ended up, our business made $200,000. And really it was all at the back end of the year. We've done a few deals this year, and we got lots of stuff in the pipeline, but yeah, we're just going to build this thing up and just keep it rolling.
That's amazing.
So looking at your big financial independence picture, that's what this podcast is. We want to know, how does this wholesaling pursuit fit into that long-term financial independence vision for Jessica? So why don't you, tell us what your, pathway looks like as it relates to wholesaling now, and where you're going to be a little bit in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of like I mentioned earlier, the way I got into wholesaling was because I wanted to find my own deals. I personally do not want, I would rather cold call than pay a wholesaler 30 grand for a deal. So number one, with having a wholesaling business, I'm going to get to keep my own rentals. So for the long term, my husband and I want to get probably, 15, 20 rentals, something like that. Who knows? It'll probably change. But, in 5 years, I would like to have, a good up and running, wholesaling company that I am an owner in, and other people are doing the day-to-day business. That's my partner and I both, our goal is not to be in the business every day. So I think 4 to 5 years, if we're making a couple million a year, we're going to pay somebody to run the day-to-day operations, or at least the cold callers. So my goal would be to be getting some passive-ish income from that business that we got going, and then also to have, obviously long-term rentals, and go from there. I guess I'll have to have new goals after that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you have a lot of investors and a lot of people, going for financial independence have like that first kind of big meaty-ish milestone number? Do you have that ideal like monthly number that you and your husband have talked about and dreamed about that
Yeah.
you're trying to ring the bell on? What's that number?
Yeah, I think it's probably like around 20 grand.
That's a perfect number. That's exactly what mine and my wife says as
Oh,
well.
yeah. Yes.
So yeah, I think, that around 250 grand a year passive, and a lot of the times tax-free when it comes to real estate is massive.
Yes.
So that's huge. So we've got the money aspect down. Tell us about, the personal lifestyle act of, becoming financially independent and financially free, and what that really means to you.
Absolutely. So it's still a trip to me that I can go on my kids' field trip on a Wednesday. I can be home with my little boy that's sick with the flu, and I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to, I used to have huge guilt in the corporate world. I used to feel bad because I was sick and had to miss a day. If I had to leave early to pick up my kid from school or something like that. And so the number one thing for me is just freedom, period. I don't have to tell anybody that I am not going to be at work today. I don't have to answer to anybody about productivity. I do not have to do any of that. I don't have to wait for a 3% raise at the end of the year. I have full control of my life. And so for me, the ultimate goal beyond money is abundance, like James, you were talking about earlier, it's really just loving my life. Like my entire goal, and this is something that in 2020, when I was like finding myself, I had a whole mindset journey, because when you're in corporate America for so long, you have really a scarcity mindset. I had a huge scarcity mindset. We had to live on nothing. We had to save and scrimp and, for these properties. And so the only thing I care about now is loving my life every single day, getting to do what I want. Luckily, I am inspired to do real estate every day. I feel excited about it, but you know what? If that ever changes, I'm going to do something different. I do not want to spend another day, like I did for so many years, unhappy, thinking that I had to wait to be happy one day. I thought I'm just going to be miserable till I'm 50 and I retire and get enough rentals. And you don't have to do that. Like you can be happy now. And here's the thing, if you're happy now, the abundance comes because you are attracting opportunities. You're attracting like things that you never thought of. Social media, I wasn't even on Instagram until 2020. Okay. Because I thought it was lame, honestly. I'm like, I'm too cool for this. But like, look how much fun it is now. I never thought, and I'm making a little bit of money on social media. I'm making money from, wholesaling. And when you're just living your life, you attract things you never thought of. So like the only thing I care about is being happy, spending time with my friends and family, traveling, and like just loving every day. That's it.
I think that's important because, a lot of people aim to get into real estate investing, especially wholesaling, sometimes for the flashiness that comes along with it, the quick check. But I think what you're keying in on is, the money that you're making is fueling your passive income, which is fueling your lifestyle that you want to have with your family. And ultimately, I think that's what we're all here for. We're going to have different goals of, what that looks like for everybody respectively, but I think we're all in the same boat there.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, we have asked, I think, 10 people on the podcast so far, almost that exact same question. And every single person was all about their time freedom.
Yeah.
It was all about the time freedom and just living their best life,
Yeah.
And, at first it is about the money, like James said, but then once you kind of hit a point where you just realize that you can do it, you can just do it by yourself. It's such a game changer in your mindset and in your well-being, just waking up every day, being passionate about something and knowing that, like you just said, if it gets boring, I can change it because I know that I can go out and create a business. I know I can go out and do this. I can do these uncomfortable things. So that is absolutely huge. I mean, I felt like you were speaking for me on all of those things, so that was absolutely great. We got this next one. So James, why don't you take it away?
So, Jessica, you've been spending this time, past 2 years, building up your wholesaling business, learning real estate, getting into it. And you've got this goal. You're going to build up $2 to $3 million wholesaling business, get to 15, 20 rentals, maybe more. After you get there, you decide that was too easy. We got to expand our goals because we got this abundance mindset.
Yeah.
You're on this path. What are some of the obstacles you think you're going to face on that path to get to where you're going? And like, what are some of these big things that maybe you're kind of thinking through or that just come to mind when you're thinking through that business plan and getting to where you're going, not only with your wholesaling deal, but, with your rentals and also that family lifestyle that you want to develop?
Yeah. Okay. Obstacles. I think, just unknowns that pop up. Like, I've never built up a business before. I'm still new to wholesaling, relatively to other people. So I think just like, for example, we outsourced our cold calling to a company that really was horrible. Okay. And so our pipeline just went for like 3 months. So we had like no leads. And so we're in the process of building that up. So it's like things like that. Like the thing I love about real estate is that there's so many options, but then it's also that kind of makes it harder because what works for somebody doesn't work for somebody else. And so it's like all these unknowns that you just have to work through, and you just have to really like kind of go with the flow and know that everything is just a learning experience and things like that. And it really has helped us zero in on some values that we're going to, kind of keep our focus on in our company going forward. For example, just quality, just kind of keeping quality staff, quality people working with us and things like that. So just the unknowns that come with like not knowing what your business is going to do. No one knows what the market's going to do, and things like that. And so like for the wholesaling business, those are our biggest challenges, is just, on just a more like detailed level, is just keeping the lead flow. Like it's hard. And kind of going back to like the mindset, the why of like time freedom is, I really would want to just tell anyone that gets into wholesaling, cold calling and even texting is brutal. People are angry. They don't like getting spam. They don't like getting, and so like literally I was cold calling and sending out text messages just today, and I felt like I was getting punched in the face every 5 minutes because people are just, they don't know me. And so it's brutal. And so you have to just go back to your why. And so those are just everyday challenges of like being told F you every day. And so those are the challenges on the wholesaling business. On the on the rental business, one of the challenges is that we've come across is, and this is the thing that I think flippers kind of face as well, is do I want this 30 grand right now or 50 grand or whatever, or really could this be a good burr for me to hold on to? So it's really trying to like stay focused on your long-term goals and not just get that quick cash all the time. So that is something that we're kind of working through in our wholesaling business, is really prioritizing, okay, let's get this, monthly goal in the business. And then we can look at, holding on to some stuff, things like that. And I don't know, I think the hardest thing is just finding good deals right now. That's just the hardest thing.
I'll tell you, I know the exact time that wholesalers and flippers decide that they'd rather do buy and hold and burrs. It's April 15th each year. When they have that short-term capital gains bill,
Yes.
then, they pay that once and then they learn,
Yes.
hopefully they kept some cash on the sidelines. And if they didn't, they learn real quick the advantages of long-term investing.
Absolutely.
So sometimes it takes one of those.
Yeah.
Patrick, you got anything else you wanted to ask before we get to our next segment?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, kind of tagged along with James there, is one of the beautiful things about doing the burr is you're still going to get that 30 or 40 grand.
Yeah.
It's going to take 6 months, 9 months to get back, but that's going to be tax exempt and tax free, which is huge. So I would 100% look at that. Also, if the market turns and things flippers stop flipping, those checks are going to stop rolling in, and that monthly income generated from your rentals are going to be what's going to keep the business afloat during those down times. So I'm sure that you are well aware of that, but for anybody out there listening, you got to think about that as well, especially when it comes to any of your businesses. So all in all, my gosh, you've been dropping some serious nuggets on us. So we are going to get into our last segment here. And I think James and I decided we are calling this the Big Four. Is that right, James?
I think that's what we're going with. It seems to change every week, but we'll see what sticks.
I like it.
Yeah, the Big Four. So kick it off, James.
Almost like the Final Four. We're in the midst of March Madness right now. So we'll call the Final Four for this week. Big Four next week. So our first one has to do with your financial independence. What is something that you do in your financial life that feels like a cheat code or a hack? It could be something very simple and obvious, or just things that you do in your personal life or your business life that kind of help propel you in the direction that you're going for financial independence. So what feels like a cheat code or a hack?
Oh my gosh, this might be like a lame answer, but my husband and we just live way below our means. Like we're very conservative, and we just live way below our means, and we always have since we got married. So that it has so many, like, we just keep tens of thousands of dollars in cash in the bank, not too much, obviously inflation, blah, 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 but it just keeps us in a position where we can buy whenever we see something. It doesn't matter if I lose my job, it doesn't, whatever it is. And it just keeps, when like, it doesn't matter what the world does. It doesn't matter what happens. And you have that security. For me, it helps me with that abundance mindset. And it helps me just have confidence going out in the world and starting a business or whatever it is. So I know it's not like the most exciting answer, but we just live below our means. That's it.
I think that's huge.
It's easy to say, it's very difficult to do. Just like we were talking about earlier with making those calls, just taking action. Easy to say, hard to do. And the hack can be slapping you in the face for financial independence and financial freedom. You just got to take the steps to do it. And, we all know that starts with, saving your money. Like, that's the first step.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge. Everybody, save. Live below your means. We know, we've been talking about this before. Everybody's got 10% to save for a rainy day. So go out there and
Just
do
to
it.
add to that, like we're in our 30s, but all of our friends, we went through the phase where everybody's buying a brand new house, everybody's buying an $80,000 car, everybody, and we are the ones over here. We're like, we're broke. Sorry. Meanwhile, we have 50,000 in the bank, whatever. But like, we just live, and it's very hard to do that when you can afford a bigger house or you can afford all the stuff that the world sees. But when you're sitting back, I just know with my faith and with everything else that like God sees that, and God sees that you're being responsible with money. Like he knows that like we're gonna leapfrog, not that it matters, I'm not trying to compare myself, but we're gonna leapfrog. We're on such a path to like just be millionaires when everybody else is like has $500 in the bank and has to charge like a car repair, things like that. So I just really, anyone listening to this, do not worry about what your friends are doing because they're broke. 99% of them. Okay. Like stay focused, make a plan and stick to it. And that's what we did back in 2015 when we bought this old fixer upper house and all of our friends are buying new builds. And I'm sitting here like, we're making like 200,000 a year, but we're living in this like little house, you know what I mean? And so I just like, I'm super passionate about like the long game. So I just had to throw that in there.
I relate to that so much. I like to say recovering attorney in a former life, and my wife's an attorney as well. So like we went to school with a bunch of attorneys, and they come out making a lot of money, but they spend almost as much money as they make. And first, right when we graduated, we didn't have an appreciation of where our frugality was going to take us. Now, I would almost very comfortably bet that our net worths are more than those attorneys doing, what they're doing, spending the money, going out, trying to live that lifestyle. And you're not going to see the benefit of that sacrifice right away. You're not. And it takes daily consistent action over the long term. And it's going to suck and it's going to feel bad because you're going to see people flaunting their material goods and their cars and their houses. But just like you guys, my wife and I, we bought, tiny houses with projects and ugly kitchens.
Yes.
And we turned them into value and opportunity. So
exactly.
I just want everyone to know that that's the lesson to be learned.
It is. I mean, my wife and I, we bought our foreclosure as our first house. We lived in it for 8 years. We just renovated our kitchen. We lived in our house we bought 3 years ago. We just renovated it, and I did like the bare minimum, like to make it look nice, but not spend 50 grand on a kitchen. Like I could pay cash for it, but I'm like, absolutely not. So I totally love that. I totally love that. All right, we got question 2, which is, are there any books, podcasts, or other resources that really shaped your financial independence journey, your mindset, that is not Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Because everybody knows that's the greatest book out there. So you cannot name that one. So
podcast,
podcast, YouTube guy, whoever, what do you got for all the listeners out there?
Okay, so I have to go back to Bigger Pockets. Like that, I mean, I literally, that podcast, I had no freaking clue that this was even a thing. And there are so many people that I talk to that like, they have no idea. So that's where it started for me, and my whole life changed. I read all their books. I listened to every single podcast. And so for real estate, obviously y'all's podcast is awesome. And Bigger Pockets, that's the main one that I can recommend. I mean, I did read a book one time on wholesaling. I think it was called If You Can't Wholesale After This, I Got Nothing For You, or something like that. And I can't remember the author. It's like, I mean, it had to be 200 pages or like little. It wasn't very long. I read it like in one day. This was like actually a few years ago. I think that was the name of it. That's what taught me about wholesaling. But Bigger Pockets. And then for mindset, oh my gosh.
So that it looks like it's by Todd Fleming. If you can't wholesale after
That's
this,
it.
I've got nothing for you.
It's a thin book. I have people ask me so many times, like, what book to read. That's the only book I've really ever read on wholesaling specifically. And it really is step by step. Now, it might be a little outdated. Like some of the things on wholesaling were written like back during the recession and stuff like that. So, but it still will give you a step by step how to do it. And mindset. Okay, there's a book called Being the Solution. It's like an old school book that my mentor recommended, and I can't remember the name of it. James, maybe you can look it up. I don't know.
I'm on the Google machine. Let's see.
Yeah, it's called Being the Solution, and it is mind-blowing because it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, how you have to become, in your mind, you have to believe that you are the person that you want to be now. You have to kind of embody that person. So if you want to be a millionaire, someone who's making $1 million a year or whatever it is, you have to believe that you are that person, and that is coming to you, and that you're already there. Like I think just the mindset thing that so many people, even me, that I struggled with, is that like you don't believe it's possible. Like until you get that first deal, you question, you don't think that you're someone that can make $1 million a year or $20,000 a month or whatever it is. And so working on your mindset every day, like I work out every day, I meditate every day, I read every day, because it starts with your mindset. Like if you don't believe that you can do it, no one else is going to believe it. No one's going to work with you, things like that. So Being the Solution is one of them. That's just the one that comes to my mind. That's a great place to start.
So that one's by
think that's great.
Dale Rutherford. So
Yes.
everyone should
And
take a look
that's
at
a
that.
small book too. Oh, there's also another one that's really, really good. And this is an also skinny one. It's called U Squared. Okay, it's called U Squared, and it's by Price Pritchett. And it's literally like 35 pages, but it's all about quantum leaps and how things that are possible. Like for me in my business, just think about this. I read this book and I went from making $0 for 6 months. We made 200,000 in 6 months. Like that is a quantum leap. Like believing that, you can quantum leap yourself and your business just by taking inspired action and just by working on yourself, if that makes sense. So this is an awesome book for anybody. I mean, each chapter is like 2 pages.
Awesome.
I absolutely love it. I'm going to check that one out for sure.
I want to hear what you think about it after you read it.
I will. I'm going to hop on Amazon after this and go check it out. But one of the things about the mindset that I think you were hinting at multiple times, and that I know, is that you also need to get in a mindset where you deserve to make that money. You deserve to be a millionaire. You deserve to make 20 grand a year. It's the fear, it's the unknown. Can I do it? Am I going to be able to do it? But a lot of the times what you're saying is, I don't think I deserve it. And you have to get into that mindset of putting in the work, waking up early, working out every day, putting all of that positive information, and taking the action. Like we said, decide, commit, take action. And that will get you in the mindset to where you know you deserve it because you're putting in all of the work. So that's huge. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I want to you just really brought up probably one of the most important things for people that want to wholesale is believing that you deserve that $20,000, $30,000 fee. That's something that I was like, oh my gosh, you have to know the value that you are bringing to the seller and to the buyer, because buyers will try to negotiate and, whatever else, but you have to know the value that you're bringing, and you have to know that you deserve it, just like you said. So that's why I always tell people, just like you said, your mindset is where it all starts. So I just want to say that is particularly important, I think, for people that want to wholesale.
Perfect. springboarding off of that, I think you're going to really enjoy this next question. It's all about mindset and abundance. It's the future you. It's 5 years in the future. Everyone has these dreams of where they're building their life. We kind of hinted at this a little bit. Why don't you summarize kind of like what your future you life looks like? You could take this in a personal direction. You could take this in a business direction, but put us 5 years in the future and tell us, what does Jessica's life look like?
Okay, so I'm gonna do like this little exercise that you can do that it really helps plant those seeds. Okay, so what you do is you talk like it's already happened. Okay, so all right, 5 years ago I was on an awesome podcast. All right, and I was just talking about my goals, and I'm so excited that in 5 years, I was able to build my wholesaling company to $3 million a year. I'm not even in the day-to-day operations. I check in once a week with my team to see how everything is going and see how I can help. I am getting $20,000 to $30,000 a month just in passive income from my wholesaling business. I have a great partner that I work with. We have a smooth, easy company that we're running. We also have 20 rentals that are, fully occupied. They all are have all increased in value a lot. And so I'm making, anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a month working 10 to 15 hours a week. I'm in my dream home. It's on the water in my area. It's on our lake, and it's big enough so that my special needs brother-in-law can stay with us on the weekends. My in-laws can visit. My kids can have people come over. And my husband's business is thriving. He gets to play golf 3 days a week. And we're traveling, we're skiing twice a year, we're going to the beach once a year, and we're able to pay for our family and friends to come with us. And all of this abundance is coming to us, is flowing to us effortlessly, easily. And I'm just living in the present moment. I'm able to be with my kids on their school events. And it's been an awesome 5 years.
Wow. That's awesome. You nailed it. I think that's been one of the best ways someone's described the next 5 years, because everyone normally talks about, in the future I'm doing this, but you're owning it. You're taking that abundance right now and putting it into the present. So I think that's super powerful.
I loved it. So the final question is, how can people get in touch with you if they want to tell you they love the podcast? They hated it. They thought your advice was garbage. They thought it was the best. They want to partner on a deal. How does everybody get in touch with Jessica?
So first of all, we have buyers all over the country. So if you are one of those people that you're excited to find a deal, you're just worried about selling the deal to a cash buyer, we partner with people all the time. So just reach out to me on Instagram. It's at invest.likeagirl. TikTok, it's the same one. Those are the best places to reach me. Start there. And so we partner with people. That's it.
Everybody, go give her a follow. Be the person that gets her to 23,000. And we had a fantastic time.
Me too.
We are out. And guys, we'll see you on the next one. Please make sure to follow, subscribe, Apple, Google, Spotify, all that stuff, and YouTube. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Real FI podcast, where you learn from the investors that have lived the hard lessons for you. To connect with us during your pursuit of financial independence, be sure to join our community by following us on Instagram or emailing us at info@therealfi.com. If this content made you financially, mentally, physically, or spiritually richer, please make sure to leave us a positive review on your preferred content platform. Cheers to kicking the 9 to 5.